Hi, my name is Leo. In the United States of America, California's Sierra Nevada mountains are home to some of the most breathtaking geological structures on the planet. Yosemite's El Capitan is one of these structures and is arguably the most impressive. Affectionately known as El Cap within the rock climbing community, this gigantic vertical formation has a sheer granite face that towers majestically, measuring 3,000 feet or 900 meters from base to peak. To give y'all a sense of how big that really is, imagine stacking 3 replicas of the Eiffel Tower on top of each other, or stacking 10 replicas of the Statue of Liberty. Simply put, El Cap is overwhelmingly enormous. On the morning of June 3, 2017, reverberations were felt around the world as El Cap became a holy place, a place where the once unimaginable suddenly became imaginable. At sunrise, 33-year-old Alex Honnold began his planned ascent of El Cap. As a professional rock climber, he had spent thousands of hours strengthening his body, his mind, and his will to prepare himself for this exalting experience. Before Alex began his climb of El Cap, he had learned one indispensable lesson: that personal peril can be avoided through disciplined discipleship, not through seductive shortcuts. So, as Alex began his chosen route up the wall, he was ready. In every possible way he was ready. He was not only ready to try, he was ready to climb, without making a single mistake. The conditions were perfect. His preparation was perfect. It all had to be perfect, because this time, Alex was going to set the climbing world on fire, as the first person in history to free solo El Cap. For those of you who don't know, free soloing means that Alex seamlessly climbed the entire face that morning. It means the flawless memorization and execution of hundreds of key maneuvers. And yes, it also means he reached the top, all by himself without using a rope. All of us are trying our best to navigate our personal journeys or mountains of faith. Some of us feel completely alone, and some of us are trying to figure out where we're at. A few of us have hit rock bottom, and others are still descending. Many of us want to climb, but we're not sure where to start. So, where have you been? What have you experienced? Where would you like to go? We hope that you'll be open with us, and that you'll allow us to go on this journey with you, together, hand in hand. Do you want to find peace and renewed faith at the top of your spiritual mountain? We believe that's possible, and we'd love to climb with you. In the Holy Bible, we read these profound words: "Be still and know that I am God." Like a rock climber, we can prepare ourselves, and when the time is right, we can be still and ascend with confidence. We need to be diligent because our spiritual life depends on our willingness to cling to the handholds of faith we find above us. But, unlike free soloing, we don't need to climb alone, and we definitely don't need to climb perfectly or climb without a rope. As your friends in Uplift, we love you, and we're fully committed to your faith journey. We'll help you climb at your own pace, and we won't let you fall. I'd now like to introduce you to Uplift by answering 5 questions. First, what is Uplift? Second, what is belief deconstruction, and how can I safely navigate it? Third, what's the difference between constructive and deconstructive messages? Fourth, how can I rebuild my faith? Is it possible? And fifth, I don't doubt, but I'd like to better understand people who do. How can I help a loved one rebuild faith? So first, what's Uplift? Well, we're a caring community of people who are trying to build faith in God. We understand how heart-wrenching it can be to experience the evaporation of beliefs we once held as sacred. We also understand how difficult it can be to rebuild those beliefs. Uplift is not a place of callous preaching or lecturing, but of listening, of learning, and of empathy. We share our personal experiences, try to answer difficult questions, and gently encourage one another to overcome the pain and other negative emotions that result from faith crisis. Instead of abandoning faith, we seek healthy and sustainable ways to transition toward deeper, more resilient faith. In other words, in lieu of encouraging the complete abandonment of faith, we climb upward by examining our assumptions, by resetting expectations, by staying open to new information, and by reaching for stronger epistemic frameworks. In Uplift, we recognize and validate the very real emotions that accompany a loss of faith. These emotions can include shock, confusion, fear, doubt, worry, loneliness, emptiness, sadness, shame, resentment, and anger. Our hearts ache for those in faith crisis because many of us have been there. We care about you, we understand you, and we want you to know that you're not alone. Our second question is, what is belief deconstruction, and how can I safely navigate it? Deconstruction is an academic term for the systematic pulling apart of belief systems. It's an often lengthy and painful process that can bring the recipient into a state of isolation and frustration. Many people who experience comprehensive deconstruction report that as they leave all religious beliefs behind, with the responsibilities and consequences that accompany those beliefs, a euphoric state of freedom and happiness is eventually realized. This may be the chosen path for some, but in Uplift, we find value and wisdom as we try to intelligently navigate and place limits upon the deconstruction process. In other words, instead of total abandonment, we transform and enhance our most sacred beliefs to meet the demands of our new knowledge. In our community of faith, we see deconstruction like rock climbing. If we're precise and patient in our ascent, we can all reach the summit, preserving our spiritual lives and arriving with our most sacred beliefs intact. That brings us to our third question. What's the difference between constructive and deconstructive messages? Stated simply, messages that enhance or build up are constructive, and messages that diminish or tear down are deconstructive. We ask those who wish to participate in Uplift to focus on positive, bridge-building messages, and to refrain from sharing deconstructive messages that disregard and dismantle the sacred beliefs of others. Deconstructive messages are different from asking sincere questions or from expressing genuine feelings of pain and doubt. All people who are struggling to build faith are welcome in Uplift. But for those who have stopped searching and feel they have reached solid conclusions against faith, Uplift may not provide the healthiest environment. Furthermore, when it comes to deconstructive messages, we find a lack of charity. We not only find a lack of charity toward religious leaders, religious texts, and religious practices, but even toward actual religious adherents who come into Uplift genuinely trying to rekindle beliefs they once cherished. Within the interfaith community of Uplift, we respect the sacred beliefs of all good religions. To illustrate the difference between the uncharitable nature of deconstructive messages and the charitable nature of constructive messages, listen to the following examples. Your beliefs are damaging people versus I'm finding great beauty in your sacred beliefs. Or, here are the problems with your beliefs versus it seems we have many beliefs in common. Or, I used to believe like you, but I was wrong versus I'd be happy to share what I believe. Although deconstructive messages can be shared from a place of real sincerity and are often aimed at helping ourselves and others to uncover the truth, these statements are, at their very core, uncharitable. On the other hand, constructive messages demonstrate vulnerability and a willingness to support others in their faith journeys. We call constructive messages charitable for a couple reasons. First, these messages carry the assumption that other people, both living and dead, generally try to do the right thing. So, as an example, in the case of religious historical events, a charitable message would, by default, attempt to assign positive motives to each of the historical characters involved. Second, constructive messages are charitable because of the responsible empathy it requires to recognize and honor the sacred beliefs that others are trying to rebuild and maintain. In Uplift, we're confident that those who consistently surround themselves with constructive messages will not only experience profound healing, but will regain the fulfilling beliefs they once cherished and will be rewarded with a richer, deeper, more expansive faith. So on to our fourth question. How can I rebuild faith? Is it possible? Yes, absolutely. We rebuild faith by learning more and by seeking ways to fill our lives with positive thoughts and feelings such as hope, patience, kindness, and forgiveness. We find faith by asking sincere questions and by remaining open to faithful answers. As we involve God in the rebuilding process and surround ourselves with trusted friends who share constructive messages, we'll begin to see the light of understanding enter in, while the darkness of doubt is chased away. We believe that a state of rest and peace is possible, and that you don't need to abandon your sacred beliefs to achieve that state. Now to our fifth and final question. I don't doubt, but I'd like to better understand people who do. How can I help a loved one rebuild faith? It's possible to help our loved ones rebuild faith, but it can be extremely difficult and may not happen in this life. Oftentimes, the only thing we can do for a doubting loved one is to actively listen and to patiently practice empathy. In fact, that is the best thing we can do. As believers, we sometimes treat people with doubt as scary, dirty, or sinful. We need to stop doing that. We need to stop demonizing doubt. We need to discipline ourselves, hold our tongues, and check our desires to fix the problems we see in others. The world needs less lecturing and more unconditional compassion. As we, 1, quietly and faithfully educate ourselves on the issues that can cause doubt. 2, exemplify real charity by listening and learning instead of preaching. And 3, build strong relationships with our loved ones who doubt. Opportunities may eventually arise for us to share our feelings and to gently guide our loved ones back to faith. So now, as you look up at this enormous mountain in front of you, please hold on to the many spiritual thoughts and feelings you've experienced throughout your life. Please remember the light that you've seen and the many good reasons you have to believe. If you feel a wave of negativity rising within you, cry out to God and reach out to your new friends in Uplift. Many of us have successfully summited this mountain before, and now that we're together, we'll do our very best to safely guide you to the top. Welcome to Uplift.